Right, okay, so I've got 8 minutes, 3 questions. I'm going to be really fast through some of this stuff. So this was the first question. What are the challenges currently exist national and international levels for advancing research in the humanities and social sciences? I think there's a whole range of challenges. I mean, one I think is just a general political and public perception of what is useful and valuable knowledge. And I think increasingly use and value are being collapsed onto each other in very instrumental and technocratic ways. And that's partly to do with the way in which the academy now is sitting inside a neoliberal framework where academic worth is effectively seen as economic value and job creation and knowledge is seen as a commodity within the various kinds of government funding agencies, university management and so on. So I think there is that kind of political framing about how we think about use and value and how we think about knowledge and how kind of we have a new form of kind of academic capitalism working inside the institutions in which we work. There definitely is a kind of a disproportionate investment going on within relation to fundamental research and talent towards the sciences, and this divergence is widening. And at an event similar to this in Harvard last week, this was some of the data they put up. So in 1979, federal grants for science were 5 times more than in humanities. By 1998, they were 33 times more, and by 2011, 200 times more. Okay, so very clearly, the money is being funneled towards science. And this is very much the case within the Irish context, as we all know. SFI's budget dwarfs the IRC's budget, which also funds science research. Science is also funded by HRB, EI, EPA, Department of Agriculture, all the rest that have been mentioned by other organisations. The PRTLI money, whilst a welcome boost into the humanities and social sciences, was dominantly into the sciences. There's very clearly been a push towards applied, instrumental and industry-focused research, and there's been a move towards this idea of requiring matching funding, and even requiring matching funding within the humanities and social sciences funding streams, which is clearly difficult to leverage, particularly in the present financial crisis. But we're very particularly promoting very particular kinds of research. And despite the rhetoric from Sean Sherlock in the last talk, this is very clearly comes out in our research prioritisations. And the humanities and social sciences, and what he was saying, was really being left to Europe. This is not what's going on in the Irish context. These are the 14 areas of the research prioritisation, none of which focus on the humanities and social sciences. And it's highly instrumental, technocratic, and it largely ignores the messy world and societies and cultures that we live in. You know, our successful societies are based on social, cultural, economic, political organisations and processes. And how we organise our societies, how we run our societies, are a big part of how successful we are as societies. Nanotech is not going to solve the Irish economic crisis, right? Good policies around job creation, around addressing issues of poverty, about addressing issues of innovation, about addressing issues of housing. We have a massive housing crisis all the way through, from land through to social housing, to private rental sector, to everything. How much research money has been spent on addressing that? Practically zero. Okay? Compare that with the amount of money that's going into medical devices or data analytics or smart grids and so on. Okay? Yet we live in these societies. You know, this is what makes us successful, how we live. And we can easily descend into other kinds of societies unless we have good programs that think about these things. So these are all technocratic solutions as opposed to ideas-focused solutions. Okay? Within humanities and social sciences, particularly within the social sciences, there's been very much a move towards consultancies, particularly the large consultancies and think tanks undertaking policy work as opposed to the academy. And they're producing particular kinds of solutions, again, which are particularly normally quite technocratic solutions. There has been a drift of science into the humanities and social sciences. We can think about this in relation to the computational social sciences. One of my pet bugbears are physicists who've been moving into urban studies and calling it urban science and pretending that there's never been a couple of centuries of urban studies existing beforehand. It's a particularly interesting area. Digital humanities as well, where clearly some of this is collaborative, so clearly some of it's encroachment from computer science and so on. And there's been a systematic undermining of of disciplinary expertise by notions of the idea of data science, and data can speak for itself, free and independent of any kind of disciplinary expertise. The academic judgments of worth being increasingly driven by metrics such as citation, research income, volume, impact, and so on. My favourite trick of trying to undermine this is I always ask the scientists to standardise. Standardise by the number of people on the paper and standardise by the amount of money that you've had invested into that project. Humanities and social sciences always come out better when it's standardised, always. And there's been a kind of a narrowing of the vision, mission, and notions of use and value in academia that disproportionately impacts the humanities and social sciences. And we've really, I'm not going to go through this slide, but we've really seen this shift from this kind of notion of an engaged university through to the notion of an entrepreneurial university underpinned by notions of knowledge as a commodity, economic rationality, subservient to political economic interests, driven by academic capitalism, and so on. How can current agendas be in which economic functions of primacy be meaningfully expanded? Well, I think there is this tension between taking part in the neoliberal project and trying to undermine that project, and that's the tension that we're often courting. You know, so we need to kind of make the humanities and social science relatively addressing contemporary issues and problems, make it more impactful, more entrepreneurial, more media savvy, more engaged beyond the university with the public, government and industry, and I do think we need to do most of those things. But at the same time, we need to kind of challenge that discursive regime that underpins the neoliberal academy and provide an alternative discourse that conveys the value of humanities and social sciences and protects all of its elements. And we do need to do a better job at that. And I thought Mary Geoghegan-Quinn's talk was a very good, powerful argument in response to some of those issues, and setting out the case for humanities and social sciences. But we also kind of need to think a little bit about some of our own practices and around timeliness and openness, and we often talk to each other, and we talk in these settings. In terms of being public intellectuals and actually engaging with the audiences and so on. It's been one of the factors around the economic crisis is the economists have been very prepared to be immediately in the debate with just-in-time analysis. We want to spend 6 months or a year reflecting on it, doing other additional analysis, being really careful, going for peer review. If you want to change things, you have to be in the debate right now. The policy is written at 10 o'clock, published at 10 o'clock in the morning. We should be talking about it at midday. If we really want to have an impact and an impression on people's minds, nobody cares. Like 6 months down the line, it's already happened, it's gone. We need to kind of think about our own practices in that sense. Potential for more creative collaborations, there's loads. And, you know, I run a research institute which has to be entrepreneurial. We're all soft money. I have to raise 20 people's salary every year. You know, we do loads of work with stakeholders, with whether that's business, whether that's with local government, whether that's with semi-state agencies, whether that's with government departments. And there are loads of opportunities to do work with all of those groups. They have loads of useful things like data and knowledge and expertise and ideas that enhance what we do and what we know. Clearly there are things around research infrastructures and tools that we can develop and use and put out for other people to use. Lifelong learning and training programs. Every government department has a budget for training, 3% of their budget. What are we doing to tap into this, to go and talk to people, to get them to think in new ways, different ways, and so on? Spin out companies and innovation, maybe more towards science, but certainly can happen within the humanities and social sciences. At the same time, we do need to be properly resourced, and we do need to move beyond endless pilot schemes. We're really, really good at Ireland in pilot schemes that then go nowhere, okay? And we also need to be good at consolidation. So what we do is we have a big funding program, and we get to the end of that funding program and they say, okay, fine, you can apply for more funding, but you have to forget everything you've just done now and come up with something new. There's no sense of continuity funding, of keeping key resources going. We kind of say, you've had 3 to 5 years, now can you please make that self-sustainable and come back to us with a new idea? We actually need to get much better at thinking about these things. These are long-term resources. Something like Digital Repository Ireland should be around in 100 years. It's not a pilot project that you pick up, you start, and then you just let go. You have to keep investing in it. You will get your return over time. You will definitely get your return over time. We need to understand the value of public good and long-term investment, and independent sustainability can rarely be achieved in 3 to 5 years, and there's a lot we can learn from other countries. Like Switzerland, for example, one of its big projects has 10 years sliding scale funding. So you get 100% in year 10, 90% in year 9, 70% in year 7, 30%. You have a sliding scale to get off the funding onto something else, but it's not, here's your money, now it's gone. You're on your own. And we need to align initiatives so we get agglomeration effects. Okay, so there's lots of projects that are around things, which means when you do make an investment in your research infrastructure, you can leverage off of it rather than investing in it and then letting it die. And these are a couple of the research infrastructures that I'm involved in. So one of them is the Aero site, All Ireland Research Observatory. It's the largest open data site in the country, providing data on just about everything you can think of, socially, politically, economically, environmentally, providing you with mapping tools, providing you with graphing tools. This is available to everybody, from school kids to businesses to everybody. Like the IDA is using this to give info to companies so they can know where to locate, for example. Just about every semi-state agency and local authority uses this. Okay? And the other one I'm a PI on is the Digital Repository Ireland. Same kind of thing, trying to work with national stakeholders. So work with the National Gallery, National Library, National Archives, RTE, and so on and so forth, about creating resources and tools that can be used by anybody to do their kind of research. So this is research support infrastructure. Okay? And again, involves a number of different stakeholders bringing together different kinds of collaborations. And I realise I'm probably over time, so I'll end there.
Thank you very much.